Live from iRacing's virtual Talladega Super Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the Outlap Motorsports Truck Series playoffs. Well, the round of 12 continues here tonight after Jeff Evans took a round opening win just 1 week ago in Chicago to make it 4 different race winners in the 4 races we've seen so far this postseason, and tonight's race is sure to bring the drama. Happy that you're with us, as always, on this Wednesday evening here on Green Flag TV with our producer, Dustin, Ollis. My name is Evan Posocco with Derrick Watson in the booth, as always. And Derrick, it was Jeff Evans, as I mentioned, who struck first blood just 1 week ago, but it is hard to list favorites coming into this tricky Talladega Challenge, which serves as race number 2 of 3 on the round of 12.
Yeah, look at the schedule here in front of you, Evan. We got Talladega tonight and then Martinsville next Wednesday. So you think about 2 tracks that would make you nervous, that would put the pressure on both of those, I think would be here in the round of 12. And then round of 8, of course, Phoenix, Michigan, and then Coda as your eliminator before the finale at Auto Club. So a wild schedule here. Lots of ifs, buts, questions, and everything else in between still to settle here. But looking at the graphic, here you go. Jeff Evans has that little checkered flag next to his name. He has locked himself in. You have to think here, based upon the points, Evan, I would say 2nd, 3rd, 4th, probably even 5th with James O'Brien. I would say so. Holly, Regan, Loedick, O'Brien. I would say probably are all safe here. I think the battle is Kalen, Sink, Loving, and then Morgan, Barney, Dunn, and Hunter. So I think those probably those 7 spots are the spots I think are likely up for contention unless James O'Brien just really has a bad couple.
Yeah, and there's going to be some questions with Martinsville in a week's time too, but I think tonight, 30-point gaps, I agree with you, pretty safe, but you never know what can happen in the blink of an eye here in Talladega. As we get set to get underway, I want to say first thanks to all of our partners who make our coverage possible. As always, it starts with our friends at Outlap Motorsports. At Outlap, motorsport is more than just a hobby, it's therapy. They know the garage, the paddock, and the driver's seat can be a safe space. That's why Outlap proudly supports men's mental health and encourages drivers to check in with themselves and each other, because what happens off the track matters just as much as what happens on it.
Then you also want to thank Hyperion Racing. At Hyperion Racing, they are a top-tier esport team, and they compete at the highest level of sports car racing on iRacing. With a focus on endurance and team events, their team is built for performance and results. While sports car racing is their battleground, oval racing has always been a core part of their identity and their blood. From short tracks to super speedways, Hyperion Racing applies the same strategy, precision, and competitive edge to every race. Hyperion Racing. Believe the hype.
Well, let's head down trackside and take a look at your Profit Python starting grid here tonight in Talladega. And pole position goes to the number 32. Blaine Adams will bring us to the green flag this evening, joined alongside on the front row by the number 23 truck of Brett Adams. Row number 2, P3 starter tonight, the 184 of Bradley Holly, lined up next to the 13 machine. That's Ted Lowendick. Row number 3, the number 27 of Steve Loving starts at 5th position, and the 3 of Jacob Dunn will start in P6. Row number 4 will see the 56 of Richard Regan Jr. in 7th, and the 99 of Brandon Walter in P8. And on row number 5, P9 starter tonight, the number 12 of James Morgan, and P10 goes to the 14, that's Matt Gagnon.
Moving back into P11, you'll find Doug Evans, part of Miracle Flow Motorsports, next to Colton Lane, back in the number 60 truck in P12. P13 is Doyle Lawrence in the 88. He's next to Zachary Burnt in P14. P15, Nicholas Hunter, one of those drivers trying to make his way into the playoffs, part of Grinds Racing, is next to Nicholas Acosta. The 816 is in P16. Thomas Sink is P17 and 48 with Jeff Evans back in P18. P19 is Jamie Graham, and then Evan Williams rounds out your top 20.
That brings us to P21, where you'll find Reese Bogue lining up alongside Zach Williams on row number 11. Behind them, it's Brian Tope starting 23rd and Stacy Hunter in 24th. Mark Kaland will start tonight in the number 25 position next to the 33 machine of Kyle Dewey. And then Dustin Bumgarner, 16, lined up next to Robert Barney in the number 26 truck. back through the rest of your finishing or starting positions, I should say. Again, all these drivers based on provisionals with no times in qualifying. Mike Toomer Jr., 29th, Nicholas Schwartz in 30th, Nick Serif in 31st, and Nicholas Gadinia in 32nd. That is, they look top to bottom at tonight's starting grid, brought to you by Profit Python. Every second counts on the track and in making money. Like a perfect pit stop, the right deal at the right time means big profits. Introducing Profit Python, the ultimate Discord for deal hunters and side hustlers. Get blazing fast alerts on price drops, secret sales, and hidden jackpots before anyone else. The race to profit is on. Don't get left in the dust. Join now at wap.com/Profit Python. Profit Python. Strike fast, profit faster. Well, it is an all Adams front row with a golden ticket at the end of 75 minutes and a pass on to the round of 8 hanging in the balance. It is the most unpredictable race of these playoffs. Let's go racing at Talladega. Lap number 1 in the books, and line up on the outside quickly where the Adams is, but it was Bradley Holly by 3/1000ths of a second. The advantage after the first 2.66 miles, leading the inside line. Too wide is strong throughout the field as they head down the Alabama gang back straightaway.
Yep, here they go. And you're right, that lane change on the start there by the Adams when they got queued up. And I'm a little curious about this lane change, Evan. Watch this again on the replay. I'm confused that they go up. I would have thought it'd been more likely that the Adams on the bottom would have tried to have made space and they would have moved down. I'm questioning the idea of giving up the bottom lane. That's just kind of a wild thought for me, honestly. Hey, they got stuck together and we'll see how that works. But if I have my preference, I'd rather have put my other teammate in the bottom and dominated that bottom lane.
And one thing you saw on the side-by-side there is Bradley Holly has pulled the ejector cord and has jumped out of the battle for the race lead. Led the opening lap of the race, jumped up to the third lane, that time off at turn number 4, and he is taking a one-way ticket to the back of the field. Bradley Holly won at the Charlotte Roval, the final race on the round of 16, and obviously comes into tonight in a comfortable points position. He clearly does not want to take risks early in this race, which, if it were to go green, would be just under about 90 laps in length. That's pretty long for a race here at the Talladega Superspeedway. Now, there's been a couple of issues, including on the grid. Check this out, Derrick. Well, we were talking through the starting grid. That's Colton Lane in the 60. Check up on the outside line, and a pretty big shunt to the back end of the 60 of Lane. Visible rear-end damage on that Valvoline machine.
Yeah, and that's always one of the frustrating parts of this whole process, right? Like, I can't even get off the grid without someone rear-ending me. Like, gosh, it'll eat at you a little bit if you're not careful. And so, it sucks for Colton Lane to have that damage. And we'll see if he can recover how bad it was. The night will tell us, and how well he's able to hang in the draft, or what he's able to do in the draft will help us here. You see him there is about, 9 cars deep in the top lane. You'll see that Valvoline truck back there. So he's doing okay for the moment here. Now, right now, of course, at the bottom, it is Steve Loving leading the field around here. It's the Adams family team up top. It's a pretty strong line on the bottom, a mix of teams. You got Loving down for RBM. You got Jeff Evans, I believe, down there. Sorry, it's Richard Regan down there, in second. You got a Tabula Rossi Esports car in third. A Miracle Club Flow car in fourth. I'm trying to get words in really hard here. So, Yeah, it's a wide variety of cars. I've got two Talladega esports cars down there, and as I'm thinking back through Dunn and Morgan's stats in this league, and Evan, you're better at the stats than I am. I think the only time that Talladega has won so far in this league are super speedways.
Oh, in trouble at the front of the field. Blaine Adams is turned in front of the field. He will save that truck. The caution will come out, but that seemed destined to be a massive wreck in turn number 3, and somehow it may only involve 1 or 2 race trucks in the very end. I have no idea how that was not a 40-car pileup in 3 and 4.
Wow. Wow that it happened. Wow at the save. Wow at the lack of trucks. Just, whoa. I'm excited to see this replay. I was just in the middle of making a point about stats, and I looked up all of a sudden, and there was a truck just pointed down, and the praise across the radio from every driver saying, hey guys, good job, good job, good job is really strong right now. But let's watch this again. Watch the top of your screen. It's an off-center bump, and then it leads into 32 being stuck in the middle and just tapped. And I mean, yeah, right there, look at that. I don't know how you pull that off. I don't know how you pull that off and not kill at least, a minimum of 5 trucks. Yeah,
that is collectively, with everybody in the running order, the greatest Talladega save I have ever seen. I mean, again, wow. You're destined to wreck them all. And if the truck spinning in front of the field doesn't take everybody out, normally the one that gets turned on the apron comes back up. And in both of the scenarios, the drivers that involved in the initial contact on row number 1 saved their race cars. They deserve a ton of credit for that. But again, I think the bulk of the credit needs to go to the field, because normally you get turned in front of the field, you don't get a chance to save it here in Talladega because you get run over from behind. So that is one of the most impressive Talladega moments you are ever going to see on the service.
Watch here from Nick Connor's point of view what's going to happen in a moment. It's going to happen. There's the smoke. There's the checkup. He's right on through, and I'm at a loss for words because I don't know how to explain to you how that wasn't worse. Everyone's going to come down, by the way, and put gas in this truck. And I think, actually, weirdly enough, Evan, I think the fuel-saving measures of only riding here at 80% throttle may have been what saved that wreck.
Every single driver, whether you chose to go high around the spinning truck, low around the truck, every single decision just happened to be the correct one. And that is, again, what makes that super impressive. So a lot of trucks down into the pit stalls, super short service, though. 6 seconds is the number on average. Fuel is the decision for almost everybody who came down to the pit lane. There are some drivers in for repairs, or mainly, I think, repairs, but tires if you're at it. There's some trucks who've been down there for 20-plus seconds. Schwartz, Gagnon, Lane, burnt it. Others, we know Lane, we talked about the damage on that truck that he got on the grid, but that is a fuel decision for all the drivers who came down pit road, and 4 trucks decided not to come in. They're going to cycle through to be the leaders. Now, Brett Adams started this race in the number 2 position, so that's not much of a shakeup, but also Brandon Walter started 8th. He's up to P2. Doyle Lawrence is up into the number 3 spot, and then Blaine Adams, who started on the pole. So those are going to be the 4 drivers who stayed out. Everybody else getting serviced in some manner.
Yeah, I mean, the decision to stay out is different. Who knows what happens? It's all about how this race plays out and how many cautions there are, and does it work in your favor. And sometimes being up front at any track, and especially a super speedway where all the wrecks and calamity can happen, the front feels safer. So I kind of get it. I really do actually get that moment. Of course, you saw Burnt and the others getting damage fixed. I thought maybe Colton Lane and Burnt were the 2 biggest beneficiaries of this wreck, honestly, Evan, because they had that issue on the grid we saw in the replay. Well, they got to basically come down right now and see how much damage there is, maybe get some of that body, beat out and put back in place, or whatever you need right there. So good for them. This is probably one of the tracks, by the way, with the clock, Evan. I was thinking right before we went live, typically you and I talk about how the clock, is different on a caution because it's laps versus time. But really, with how long a lap takes here under caution, this might be the only track where probably the caution's the same length in a timed race or a lapped race, actually.
It's a long way around this 2.66 mile super speedway, and fuel is at such a premium that some drivers came in and got a splash, and they are back in again. Most of the trucks who are back down pit road this time had already come down pit road and gotten a splash of fuel previously. None of those decisions were drivers coming back in for the first time. Adams, Walter, Lawrence, and Adams, the 4 drivers that I mentioned who stayed out, they still stay out. There's no second guessing. That is a doubling down of the strategy. They need fuel. And again, it can be different and challenging to kind of visualize what a fuel strategy decision is when you see a clock in the top left-hand corner of your screen instead of, a lap counter. But this equivalates to somewhere in the ballpark of about 75 or so laps to go in this race. So if they think it's that close on a fuel with a chance for this race to go green, you're looking at a magic number 36 laps to do it on a one-stop strategy. If you're looking for a two-stop strategy from this point, we're really pushing the limits on my math abilities, but 25 would be the decision per run on a two-stopper. But whichever of those decisions is at the front of mind, it is clearly not some secret because, again, everybody appears to be on the same page.
Want to say here on this restart, by the way, the spot I think is the most nervous is Ted Lowendick. He's going to start right behind the 32. There's no way that 32 doesn't have some kind of damage, by the way, whether it be just back end damage or it has something is off in that truck. You don't get turned around at Talladega like that. So it's very possible he has some damage, and that may slow that truck down in a draft. So if I'm Ted here, I'm a little hesitant and nervous to find out what I don't know when this green flag falls.
It will try it all over again. It seemed like a pretty calm and cordial opening stint to the race until contact in the battle for the race lead almost caused one of the bigger wrecks you'll ever see. Instead, we get away almost completely scot-free. A lot of trucks in for fuel under the yellow. It'll cycle Brett Adams back into the number 1 spot. Green flag back in the air as you ride on board on the outside lane, a couple of rows back with the 13 machine of Ted Lowendick. He'll stay in line on the outside. The bottom has got about a truck length worth of an advantage as they shift through the gears up to speed and off at turn number 2.
See Teddy's so calm and cool and collected in the restart. Evan, he had time to reach out here and grab his drink and get a nice drink of it right as the green flag fell. So he must feel good in that spot. Teddy, one of the trucks, by this way, that has turned pink in some form. Obviously supporting Breast Cancer Awareness Month with some of those trucks out there. So you'll see a pink cue to himself. I know we saw it on Jeff Evans. And we'll see some more as this night. I think Thomas Sink may be carrying one I thought I saw in the numbers. So you'll see that throughout the night here on these trucks. In their own way of celebrating that. There's Richard Regan Jr. He's got the pink on the truck, and he is falling back pretty quickly. And I guess he just wants to fall in line and kind of maybe get settled here.
You saw the same move really early on in this race as well with one of the other top-running trucks. It may have been Reagan doing it this time. I think we may have seen it out of Lowendick or somebody else on that opening stint, right, where they dropped right to the back pretty quickly. So pretty clear that a lot of these drivers have a game plan, whether that's the conversation about the splash of fuel or if it's these very intentional moves to get out of this lead pack and drop towards the back, knowing that this is a long race. We say that often, right? 75 minutes on the clock does not seem like the longest race that you'll see on average, but when we lose a little bit of time on the clock, we tend to lose, more clock time than lap time. Whereas if it was a lap race and you're burning laps, some of these races would get shortened up. So these races, deceptively long, especially here at a place like Talladega. We had the same conversation a week ago on the road course in Concord also. On board with Mike Toomer Jr. in the Hornet's Nest, middle of the pack and on the outside of the ongoing two-wide battle.
And looking at the inputs here, I'm a little surprised from Mike Toomer Jr. I mean, the inputs are an estimate that we get from the black boxes. They're not accurate data per se. Look at that lifting, though. As I said, I was surprised at first. He was full green on the left hand. That's his throttle. But you see now he's kind of flirting with it, teasing it, whatever you want to say there, and making sure he's doing his own fuel saving, keeping that gap there on the top line. Up front, Brandon Walter, by the way. Had a brief talk with Brandon where he said he was looking to have fun tonight. I said, "Hey, listen, it's a funny quote to me tonight, Evan. He said, listen, if I'm going to get wrecked tonight, can we just do it early? He said, I don't want to drive around here for 70 minutes and get wrecked in the last 5. He said, if they're going to wreck me tonight, I prefer it happen early so I can, enjoy the evening.
And that's fair, but also easier said than done. That's how most nights end at Talladega, is you drive around for 70 minutes or 95% of it, and you end up on the hook. That's just the nature of super speedway racing. As you get a good look at the entire pack as they race down into turn number 3. A couple of trucks looked like they were exploring 3 wide opportunities, staggered a little bit, maybe just trying to get some clean air to the nose of their trucks, but again, it is 2 wide throughout with some shifting high lane to low lane as they came off of 4. A little bit of a breakaway up front now. The 2-car tandem between the number 23 and the 88 machine trying to get a bit of a gap as we see Brandon Walter drop down to the inside lane. The bottom's advantage steadily growing over those trucks on the outside line.
I mean, I guess if you are concerned about fuel saving all night long, it does make sense you want to be on the bottom lane because that in theory, or not in theory, I guess actually that is the shortest way around the track. You saw Loving below the yellow line for a second. All's good there. So it makes sense you want to be on the bottom there. Now, what I find interesting, a lot of these races in the postseason, Evan, we kind of talk in the commentary about sort of this win and in format. We almost talk about it as if it's, like etched in stone, or it's guaranteed, it's written in gold, or however you want to phrase that comment. But here, I mean, right now, your top, 4 racers not in the playoffs. It's very likely someone here wins here tonight who's not a playoff driver, and that just makes things more interesting going into Martinsville next week.
We know that Martinsville is a tricky challenge, very different to what we see here tonight in Talladega. But you're right. I mean, the odds of a non-playoff winner are at their highest. We have yet to see a non-playoff race winner over the course of the 4 playoff races we've had so far. So that does shift things around. I know in the round of 12, I think there's enough buffer that I don't know if it's going to make a huge difference unless you've got somebody like a Jacob Dunn, like a Nicholas Hunter, right? Finishing second and third. In that case, yeah, that's a pretty big spoiler. Other than that, again, I think that we had a pretty good understanding, as you pointed out at the start of the race, on kind of who's in a must-win situation, who has the ability to points their way in. But those bottom 2 names are the ones that jump out to me. Those are drivers who could really benefit of finding a victory here tonight in Talladega. Things are continuing to be steady. Again, this is what we saw in the first stint. There was really nothing that indicated before the yellow that we were in treacherous territory, that people were driving overly aggressively, doing something they shouldn't have been doing, and all of a sudden it popped out of nowhere. So don't kind of lean into that false sense of security again. You see one truck on the apron in the back of the field as they try to just figure out who's going to be in line down to turn 3. But this is exactly what we saw in the opening stint. 2 wide, people very methodical and intentional on what lane they want to be in at this point.
And on the screen, I feel like you can see different strategies playing out in the moment, right? I mean, look at that gap between 3rd and 4th. That tells me that 1st, 2nd, and 3rd right now, for some reason, they just don't care a little bit about fuel saving. And I don't want to be aggressive or over dramatic about it, but that gap back to 4th, that gap of I think it's Jacob Dunn in the Alabama paint scheme in 4th, as we're riding on board here with Nicholas Hunter, it shows me that Done on back, they do care. I mean, if they were full throttle, there's no reason why that gap exists in this format, right? So there's obviously a different form of fuel saving or not theories going on as Hunter moves to the bottom here up in front of Dunn, and he'll try to catch up to that group here. But I just find it interesting that those top 3 are so willing to break away.
And that makes sense, right? Those top 3 drivers, 3 of the 4 who decided to not come down and take a splash of fuel. So that was, kind of tipping their cards anyways, that, hey, they're not really interested in saving to fuel like everybody else. So it makes sense that essentially we assume they're going full throttle on the inside lane. Some of the drivers might be a little bit more intentional with conserving some fuel, that they were able to open up a little bit of a gap when they had it. Now, that uncontested time may be coming to an end because I mentioned those lead 3 were 3 of the 4. Well, the 4th is Blaine Adams. That 32 car leading the outside lane also has indicated by not taking on fuel that he has no intentions of saving, and he is going to go full bore. So Colton Lane taking advantage of that aggressive 32 in front of him, and in the blink of an eye, we go from a clear inside advantage by 4 truck lengths to a dead heat between the inside and the outside.
And I guess right now, any questions about Colton Lane in that truck and any damage that did or did not exist, I think those have been answered, right? Typically, a damaged truck is not up there this early, in second place in the outside lane. With if there is a lot of damage. Now the question would be, what happens if Colton Lane decides to take the leads? I'm not sure if he's got wickedly loose there or backed out for a good reason, but that was again sudden. You mentioned that wreck earlier was sudden. That move by Lane was sudden.
Yeah, that seems to be the right spot in which you would want to kind of move up out of lane, right into the corner to scrub off speed. I mean, that seems like where you would want to do it, but it just, to your point, was sudden. Like, it just seemed a little bit aggressive of a move. Either way, it's going to take him out of that top position, cycle back, and all it takes is to lose one truck on the outside lane, and all of a sudden, that momentum gets stunted. It's especially hurtful in fact that kind of Colton Lane was not really the instigator. Again, I think Blaine Adams being full bore, not trying to conserve fuel as the lead truck initiated it, but Lane was the one pushing him and making it happen. Now that that's no longer the case, all of a sudden, the outside needs help, and the 32 of Blaine Adams can see, hey, that outside's not working out for me right now. I'm going to drop down to the inside of the racetrack, and now there's fresh blood up top. How about Dustin Bumgarner, pushed by Mike Toomer Jr., new kids on the block leading the outside charge?
Yeah, that's going to be fun to see what these guys can do. They got Williams behind them. They got Kyle Dewey fourth in line back there, so we'll see what kind of run they can make. I have two thoughts on the Colton Lane situation I'll share with you. One is that maybe that truck had gotten hot and he needed to get fresh air into it, and maybe just went a little aggressive in doing that. The second thought is he running sort of a science experiment, right? Does he want to know how well that truck does? How fast can I go from back to front, so to speak? So I'd be curious to see what Colton Lane does in the next 5-10 laps, to see if he tries anything to go back to the front again. I think that'll tell us if it was more of the heat issue or if he just wants to kind of test the truck out.
It's funny because none of these drivers are going to be strangers to Talladega, right? None of them are going to be strangers to super speedway racing. But just like we talked about earlier, how most of the time if you wreck out of a plate race, you spend the first 95% of it racing and you get on the hook late. You also do spend the first 95% of it as an R&D session, right? You're kind of learning, obviously in a league like this, a lot of these drivers very familiar with one another, but you're learning the tendencies of the other trucks around you. As we go 3 wide in the back, right there, that's the number 28 machine, I think, up on the outside lane. Yeah, Zachary Burnt kind of got squeezed out a little bit there next to Colton Lane, but it's an R&D session, right? How do these other drivers want to race you? What lane's working? What lane's not? Also, if you didn't qualify by a teammate, can you position yourself to get near one of them, right? You talked about the type of the Rasa cars who were lined up at the inside lane. We talked about Brett and Blaine Adams, who started side by side on the front row. Not everybody's so fortunate. This is, above any other kind of racetrack, a place where having a teammate can really help you. So you may want to go find your teammate and work together, because teammates drafting at a place like Dega and Daytona much more beneficial than running near your teammate at, say, an intermediate racetrack.
Well, and to continue to that point, I think the part that maybe got missed in the live feed there for a second is, remember, pre-race on the grid, there was that contact between Burnt and Lane. Now, about a lap ago, you saw that 3 wide open up where Burnt was on the outside, and Lane, I think, thought about it. And I wondered in my head, did he go, hey, wait, that's Zach Burnt who hit me under the grid, so you know what? I'm not going to push him, right? That's the other part of the R&D that happens. It's not just how does the car behave, it's how does someone else behave, right? Did they bump me? Did they hit me too hard? Did they hang me out to dry in a drafting line? Did they fall back and help me get back to the draft? Those are those kind of personal skills almost that I think matter almost more than how the car behaves. And I think we saw a great example back there with Colton Lane and Zachary Burnt.
Seems like a lot has happened, and only about 25 minutes have ticked off of the 75-minute clock here for the Talladega Super Speedway. Seen more 3 wide down than we have at any other point in this race. Look at the 14 of Matt Gagnon, solo on the outside line, making up ground. It is a great visualization to show you that those lanes on the bottom are not running full throttle. If a single truck could pull up to the outside and make up ground just like that. Richard Regan joins in on the fun. The 28 is Zachary Burnt going to go to the outside also. A fourth truck wants to join in, but at the front of all of it, Matt Gagnon will decide to drop down to the middle lane just as he had gotten nose to nose with the leaders. And that'll stall the outside out a little bit. That run comes and goes in the matter of only a lap.
Yeah, that was an RBM top lane. That was Gagnon, Regan, Burnt, and Bogue. That was purely an RBM lane, and I'm a little surprised, honestly. Remember we talked about the R&D, if you will, about how do people behave and what they do? I'm a little stunned that when you have that strong of a run that Matt Gagnon felt the need to pull down in the middle, right? That he felt the need to more so abandon his teammates. I think the world of Matt. Matt's a great racer. He's been a part of not only PSR, he's a part of the college iRacing series at times. He's been very successful. See, now he moved back up. I think maybe he got the memo in discourse and, hey guys, never mind. Regan says, hey, remember that move? Let me show you how it's done.
Yeah, it's exactly the case. And now look at the outside. Once it works there, everybody's like, hey, I want to go try this out. But now there's almost too many trucks on the outside, and they start to check each other up. So the 33 says, thanks, but no thanks. He'll brought back down to the middle lane. That was Kyle Dewey. And now the outside is on the outs when it comes to momentum. Now there are 3 different lanes with 3 different quantity of race trucks in them. The bottom is still the dominant lane. That single file inside stretches far beyond what we're seeing out of the middle and the outermost lanes. The middle lane has the second of most race trucks. There's no surprise there. And then again, there are now only 2 trucks left on the outside. They will likely all be absolved into the middle lane here shortly, and they do, as the number 14 Machida Matt Gagnon drops down to the inside. That outside will return. That lane will be back. This racetrack is much wider than the Daytona International Speedway, so when you're running too wide, that option to go high is always going to be there. The question is, now that these drivers know how quickly and efficiently that top lane can work, is what group of 2 or 3 trucks are going to want to make it happen next?
Well, and if I'm Richard Regan, I'm stoked about where I am, because right now we're starting lap 27 on the track. We know that a fuel window here under green for these trucks is about somewhere between 30 to 34 laps. So remember, there are 4 trucks, which is Adams, Lawrence, I think Walter, and Adams, who did not pit yet. So that means they're likely within, let's say, 5 laps of needing to pit. So that tells me if I'm Richard Regan in the second lane, then I'm just kind of hanging out, waiting, and likely taking the proverbial lead once those guys need to pit here. So if I got Dustin Bumgarner, Mike Toomer, and others behind me, I'm stoked knowing that probably about 5 laps from now, I become the race leader.
Yeah, the time is limited. I also find it interesting, right? You've got Adams, you've got Doyle Lawrence. Those 2 trucks on the inside lane, going to be easy for them to get to pit road. The Diana Walters also on the bottom, and the 32 of Adams. So one thing I was looking for is, are any of those trucks on the outside, and do any of them need to find a way to get to the bottom? That is not the case. The 4 trucks who will need to pit sooner than anybody else are the 4 trucks that are currently lined up on the bottom. Is that by happenstance, or are those cars lined up on the bottom because they know that they're going to be having to come to pit road somewhat soon? 56 laps to go is the estimation for 47 minutes on the clock at this juncture in the race. You're on board with Regan on the outside line. He leads the top. You can see the inside, the ebbs and flows of the momentum. Advantage to the outside one time, and that time off of 4, it was advantage to the trucks on the inside lane. Tightly packed in 2 by 2.
Yeah, and if I'm Richard Regan, I am stuck to this outside lane, which is not normal for me as a driver. I love, typically, as most drivers do, the inside lane of a super speedway, but I would not move down, even if my lane pushed me forward. There's another top lane for me, by the way. But I would not move down ever, Evan, because what's going to happen is if you do move down, then when those 4 trucks do pit here in a moment, you're going to find yourself kind of with a big gap back to the next truck pushing you, and the other lanes will likely swallow you up and go on around. But speaking of lanes moving around here, again, look up top. That's, I believe, Reese Bogue leading. There's Matt Gagnon behind him, Zachary Burnt, and the Prophet Python machine. And now Kyle Dewey's up top. We've now somehow got the 3 wide with only a couple laps before pit stops.
It came out of nowhere, and hold on. 3 wide battle for the race lead. First time we have seen this tonight. It's Bogue on the outside, Regan in the middle, the inside still held strong. But the 23 machine of Brett Adams, is it worth going 3 wide for the lead in the lead pack? Less than halfway into a plate race in Dega. Regan sees the speed on the outside, and he jumps up to the outside. So Richard Regan Jr. now comes up to essentially put a block, trying to control multiple lanes up at the front of the field. That outside lane's going to stall out a bit on entry. The 16 truck now, Dustin Bumgarner, leads the middle. But Regan hoping that he could get the run off of turn number 4 to pull back alongside them. You're looking at what is, call it the top 20 trucks scored within less than 1 second of each other, and the advantage that time still to the truck on the very inside.
Yeah, and I wonder if Regan, I mean, you're right, he did kind of block the run, but I think it was more about him wanting to join his teammates, join his team co-owner, in fact, and Reese Bogue up top and have all that happen. You'll see that fastest lane is going to move around all night. By the way, that's just kind of the nature of this track, where typically the driver, 4 or 5 cars deep in a line, will somehow magically claim the new fastest laps. You'll see that go on all night long here, but Regan here up top is now effectively leading this race. He moves down and leaves Reese Bogue, and oh, buddy, he's now drifting lanes, and that's the lane I wouldn't want to be in right now if I was Richard Regan.
And I mentioned this racetrack is wider than Daytona. That is true. So even though from high above, some of these pictures might look like these lanes are very far apart, when you're doing it at 185 miles an hour, all of that little kind of swaying side to side can be awfully sketchy in terms of all it takes is one truck to move up a couple feet, another driver to move down a few feet, and you're talking big issues. I'm surprised that the outside has the advantage over the middle lane. The strength in numbers that the middle has often had over the outside has fallen apart. Some miscommunication, though, on the front row. Gagnon down to the middle, the 28 machine. Oh, and there it goes! Toomer gets turned. He's into the outside wall. The 16 is also, it's Dustin Bumgarner, and we avoided a mess last time we had trouble in 3. This time we do not get away with it.
No, we don't. But I think what we got away with, Evan, I'm not sure a single playoff car truck was in that wreck. Unless Richard Regan got some contact in that wreck, I think that's all going to be non-playoff drivers.
And I know Regan went low. Question is, did he go low enough to avoid the accident, or did he end up getting a piece of it? We'll wind it back and take a look. This is headed into turn number 3. All eyes were on the outside lane, but I mentioned the staggering. Look at the bottom, a bit of a push there. They check up. That truck gets turned to the outside. There's Richard Regan on the apron of the racetrack. He gets hit from behind. That was the purple truck who got into his bumper. It did not look like major contact, but did I see the bumper of Richard Regan's truck come off in that damage on the bottom?
Did I see Regan make the bad bump? Can we back up that replay again and see? I thought it was Regan who maybe gave the bad bump that started the caution. I can be wrong in what truck it was in the bottom, but I thought it was Regan who kind of broke off the chaos. Watching on the bottom here, that is Regan.
Yeah, he's pushing the 16, but yeah, the 4 is not going to go anywhere. So he pushes him into him right here. See that second shot? Yeah, I think he does get some back-end damage in it.
So that's the only playoff driver. Your next person back is Nick Hunter, who, as far as we can tell, is not involved in this wreck by any means. So, boy, oh boy.
So we'll see if Richard Regan Jr. with no rear bumper on that truck. There's the onboard perspective for the driver behind him in the running order. Is he going to have to come down to the pit lane to get that serviced? We've also been talking so much about fuel tonight that it's likely everybody's going to be coming down pit road to talk about fuel regardless. So this will even things out on some of the different strategy conversations that we've had. We saw the 4 drivers who stayed out on yellow flag number 1. They never did come down pit road for green flag service, so this will cycle them back onto the same strategy as everybody else. There's a great look as looks like they had the bumper standing by and patched it up onto the rear end of Richard Regan's machine. We'll see if he has to spend any extra time in the stall to get the damage fixed, as tires are going on trucks for the first time today, and that does look like an extended stay for Regan in the box.
Yeah, it certainly does. Almost up to 20 seconds now in that box, and he'll get a lot done. And listen, if I'm Richard Regan, obviously you want to win every race possible. You want to secure that spot if you can. He's really good on points, but next week is Martinsville. It's a short track. It is Richard Regan country, basically. We're short track racing in PSR. So he has to have some good confidence for next. Richard often has some really blah luck here in super speedways and PSR. So we'll see if he can bounce back and come back from that. By the way, something to note, we talked in the pre-race about how James O'Brien was like 42 points to the good. Evan, unless I'm just having a moment, James O'Brien isn't here.
Yeah, it's a good observation.
That 42-point lead is not as secure as maybe one thought it was.
And that's kind of the number of points available roughly for a full race, right? So we talked about how I think you set him as the benchmark, right? That James O'Brien and up, you're pretty comfortable.
Probably good.
Everybody else down, not. That'll basically ensure that James O'Brien's going to be on the hot seat when we go to Martinsville in a week. So it looks like he is the only driver, just taking a quick scan through. It looks like the only playoff car who's not in this race.
I agree. Well, let's do this while we're under caution here. Richard Regan has claimed the fault for that wreck. He will take an end-of-line penalty here. But I want to find out what it felt like to be in that wreck, Evan. So let's go right to the source. Let's see if we can welcome in Dustin Bumgarner into the Green Flag TV broadcast booth. And let's do that now. Let's welcome Dustin into the broadcast booth. And Dustin, a wild ride, a wild wreck you were just in a moment ago. What's your perspective?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep, there we go.
Yeah, I don't know. I was coming up really fast on the Reese, and I don't know if Rich knew that or not, but I think he just tapped me in the wrong spot a little bit, got me sideways. Wasn't on purpose.
How bad's the truck?
I had like 16 minutes of damage.
Ooh.
So I'm most likely done.
Is the wheel straight?
I'm watching replays right now.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Well,
I mean,
sorry to see you. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I was just trying to take it easy and save some gas, but
Were you surprised by the fact we were 3 wide when you thought tires, or fuel saving was the strategy?
a little bit. Yeah, but you know, people want to go up to the front, so I get it. I was pretty satisfied with going from 26th to 2nd and 1st. That was pretty good.
Well, listen, we'll let you get back to watching the replays. Hope we get the truck back out there and score some points, and we'll see you soon.
Hey, let me give a shout out to Summer Prentice, who always watches the race. Thanks, Summer.
Yeah, thank you, Summer. And thank you, Dustin, for your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you, man.
All right, that is Dustin Bumgarner. You can just kind of hear the disappointment in his voice, can't you?
It's never a fun situation to be in. And again, I think it's a little bit more hurtful, if that's the right word. The fact that, again, he said, like, I wasn't trying to go for it there, right? I mean, everybody knows you can't win the race halfway through, but you're more likely to lose it with issues halfway through. And I'm sure the same sentiments are held for a lot of the drivers who were involved in that accident. Richard Regan Jr. is back onto the racetrack, but he'll be restarting at the tail end of the field. Nick Acosta's 1 lap down in 30th, and then we just talked to Dustin Bumgarner, 2 laps down 31st, but that truck is still on the pit lane. Well, we will inch now across the halfway point in this middle race in the round of 12 with our second race start of the afternoon. Green flag flies, back at it we go. And for a third time tonight, the car on the bottom quick to jump up top. Maybe that was just Matt Gagnon ushering the 4 respoke down, because they drop right back to the yellows and leave Evan Williams on the outside with no drafting help at all.
Yeah, it's good to see Matt up front. Matt works really hard, and I'm happy to see him up front leading his pack, see how long he can keep up there. Remember, he was doing a great job earlier, leading his pack up in the top lane, and was really trying to carry that momentum and make the best of it. So I'm always happy to see Matt involved here. And I think Matt even, what do you think, Evan? Do you think Matt is with or without the ski goggles tonight?
I feel like in Talladega you got to have the goggles on, right? Old school.
I think so. Oh, look at that.
Oh no, that's why I didn't place a bet on it.
He's even kind of got the Zachary Quinto Spock lifted eye thing going on, doesn't he?
He is very curious and very perplexed, I'd say, on the front row. Is he, again, one thing I look at there is a little bit of a glance there. First time I saw him look up to the rearview mirror, right? And that's what I look for as the leader, is what are you doing with your eyes? A lot of drivers, as the lead car, will often be looking in the mirror more than they'll be looking out of the front of the truck, right? Trying to see what the drivers behind them are doing, what the lane next to you is doing. He seems to be spending most of his time looking forward, which tells me, as you see him chatting with somebody, that he's obviously got a spotter or somebody in his ear letting him know what's going on. That's going to take a lot of the load off of the driver. He'll still glance. He still wants to know what's going on, but clearly he's being well informed.
Well, he's got his teammate and team Coulter and Reese Bogue right behind him. The car, I believe, up front on the top lane above is his teammate and Evan Williams. So he's got to feel pretty secure in this moment that he's got, some good help and some good knowledge all around him. So pretty calm, cool, and relaxed Matt Gagnon there without the ski goggles here tonight. Here we are, 2 wide racing, and with 35 minutes left here, Evan, I think we might be full throttle here. I think we might just be... Oh, hold on. There's a full throttle hit. That was Reese Bogue to the inside. That's a hard wall hit. No caution. We're going to keep racing here. And that was like... Hold on.
It's coming all the way up, and now is it going to bring a caution? There it is.
That's... I don't know if I have a word for that.
I hope we were going to be able to get away with that one. Reese Bogue was running in second position at the time. No fault of his own. Took a, hockey season just started back up, so took a pretty good hip check on the backstretch. Let's check this out.
Body check. Watch this.
That's just straight door to door. And again, if that jet out wasn't there, maybe he has a chance to save this truck. Almost goes airborne with the speed he was carrying down on the inside. And then, again, had it saved, or so we thought, and then it spins back up the hill. And that's why I was worried about that, because once those tires get to the yellow line, you're getting a yellow, and would have liked to have not had to see that.
Yeah, I suspect there'll be some conversation about this caution throughout the week. And again, what happened to him here is it's bad timing. I don't know what happened there. A bad spotter call, I'm not sure. But this right here, I thought this was saved, honestly. I thought this was probably going to be not on track, and then somehow it stops there. So I'm sure there'll be some discussion about that this week amongst the admins, and we'll see if anything comes of that here. But it's Evan Williams. Well, I won't say maybe the best example, Evan, of when we say someone took second place. Evan Williams just took second place from Reese Bogue.
Yeah, quite literally. And here's, again, it's a push from the rear. The 88's the one pushing him, gets loose. But again, if that jet out's not there for the safety vehicle, he might save that truck. But the wall jets out right when he was starting to catch it. And that's also, again, caution flag aside, that left side damage on that truck pretty severe as well. So Bogue would have been coming down to the pit lane no matter what. Front and left side damage on that truck that he's going to need to get fixed. Basically, the bumper is the only thing not damaged, because he got the hip check to the right door and then hurt the left front and the left side when he got into the inside wall. So it's a beat-up truck. He's already off of the pit lane. That's because your leaders are coming down. So he's going to continue to try to stay on the lead lap. Here's the perspective of the pusher, and that's Doyle Lawrence.
Oh, yeah, that was a great call by you. That's a very much off-center push right there, and that's what happens when you push off-center. Is you send that truck ahead of you one way or the other. And so, I mean, Williams was along for the ride. He had no idea that was going to happen until it did, so it's unfortunate for him. And I was just saying at that moment, I thought everyone was good on fuel, and I believe from here, Evan, we are good on fuel. Well, this is going to be a full throttle ride the rest of the way here. And I think even probably for the trucks that stayed out, which would be Matt Gagnon, I think Zachary Burnt, Doyle Lawrence, Zach Williams, Brett Adams, Blaine Adams, Toomer on back. I think those are the last ones. Maybe, Brandon Walter and Jamie Graham. I think even they're probably good. They don't have as much confidence to be full throttle, but I thought they were good before the caution.
Yeah, they are in the minority. It's going to be the top 7 drivers, top 8, including Brandon Walter, who did come back in and top off before the most previous restart, who decided to not come down and pit, which means that everybody from Jamie Graham on back, 9th through the rest of the field, going to be the drivers who came down for what has been at least the third time down pit road today that we've seen people come in primarily for fuel. And you don't used to, I don't want to say you don't think, because I do think this perspective has changed, especially with what you see in modern cup racing on plate tracks, but I'll say at least you never used to think of a Daytona and a Talladega as a fuel conservation and a fuel mileage type of racetrack. But last 3-4 years, that conversation has skewed that way.
Yeah, it definitely really has skewed that way, hasn't it? Well, last caution, we talked to Dustin Bumgarner, who was involved in a wreck. This time, I think, let's talk to the driver who was really along for the ride, if you will. Let's see if we can grab Evan Williams and welcome him into the broadcast, because I want to hear what his perspective of this moment was. Give me a second here to get sorted, and we'll welcome him to the broadcast booth. Let's go ahead and move him on up here. So let's do this. So Evan Williams, welcome into the Green Flag TV broadcast booth. That looked like a scary ride you were just a victim of right there.
Man, yeah, that was absolutely crazy. I didn't know what was going on. Like, it happened really fast. I just got bumped in the back. I don't know if he wasn't square or what happened, and just like left hooked me straight into Reese. Kind of sucks. So I feel bad for him.
So what was the contact what was the communication? That's the right C word I want. What was the kind of communication within the team radio once that moment happened?
A lot of swear words, I think, was about it. No, we really didn't know what happened. I felt myself get hit in the rear, and then it just cut so fast. It was like a half a second thing.
Well, from here on out, are you good on fuel?
I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Fair enough. Being coy, I like it. Evan, thanks for your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.
All right, there you go. And, you know, Evan, that's interesting. This is kind of, I like that answer. You and I have done broadcasts for, a year and a half or so, and I've always been a big person to say I like when drivers keep things secret. As broadcasters, we hate it because we want to know all the info and all the good details. But, hey, sometimes you got to keep your cards close to the vest.
I respect the gamesmanship, and I know that some drivers will either listen to the broadcast directly, which I think is an interesting decision. I don't know if I want to hear people talking about my race on a 30-second delay. Others will just have people on their team, crew chiefs, whatnot, monitoring the broadcast. So yeah, don't tip your hand. We will try. That's not going to stop us from trying to get the information. But yeah, respect it. Keep them close to the chest, and don't let your fellow competitors know what's going on. Again, I think everybody hyper aware to the conversation we were talking about before we chatted with Evan about the fact that, this is a fuel mileage race. And we are, at least to some degree, close on fuel as we get set for a restart inside of 29 minutes left on the clock. So for this restart, let's take you down track level and let's feel the noise of the Talladega Superspeedway. good perspective of what these drivers are dealing with at speed inside of what is now less than 25 minutes to go in the second race of the round of 12. Our coverage of the Outlap Motorsports Truck Series playoffs continuing here for the Talladega Superspeedway. Up front, the inside led by the 14 of Matt Gagnon. He has led a second high of 13 laps in this race, bested only by Brett Adams, who started up front and led 25. The outside lane led by the 62 of Mark Kalin, who somehow has not yet led a lap in this race until now. Lap number 1 led on the outside for the driver of the 62.
Well, and that top lane is slowly getting a couple more trucks. It feels like lap by lap that momentum's gaining. It's Kalin, it's Williams, it's Doug Evans up there. One of the Adams is up there. Then you see a couple of playoff drivers. The 3, I think the 12, which is Dunn and Morgan, are up there. But slowly that top lane feels like it's just gaining momentum, doesn't it? And it's, I mean, look how the difference in the length of the line from top to bottom. That bottom lane carries so many trucks, and kind of surprising in a way to think that that's that big a difference, that more drivers aren't willing to move up and try something different.
And Mark Kalin's had quite a journey in this race. Did not get a time in qualifying. Had to start way at the rear of the field in the number 25 spot. We made quite a point of talking about all the drivers who qualified up front and intentionally dropped to the rear, right? Feeling like, hey, it's not time to battle quite yet. Let me get back and get away from the danger. Well, Kalin, a story of the opposite. And is that an indication now that you have drivers who started from the rear? Even a Zach Williams started 22nd. He's a top 10 car all of a sudden. Have we hit the point in this race where it is no longer time to conserve and it is time to go, right? Is that why we're seeing these drivers who intentionally or by a penalty had to start from the rear of the field are now up and in the conversation for the first time tonight? There are still some lingering questions fuel-wise. Drivers keeping their exact fuel numbers close to the chest. But we may be at the point now where nobody is intentionally laid back off of the front couple of rows.
Yeah, the only people who might be kind of laying off would be those drivers who didn't pit. So the Adams would be 2 examples, both Blaine and Brett. A few others who didn't pit under that last caution. Matt Gagnon didn't pit, so he's up front. Doyle Lawrence didn't pit, but I mean, they might be laying back a little bit. But everyone right now, I think, should be full throttle. And listen, with 22 now minutes left on the clock, part of me, with them being probably 6-7 minute cautions, you have to start moving, because basically 2 cautions and we're basically done with this race.
Yeah, that'll start to come off of the clock very quickly if we start talking about some more yellows and restarts, so on and so forth. Small breakaway for the drivers on the inside. I referenced it earlier, a bit of an old school 2-truck tandem, Gagnon and the 88 of Lawrence on the inside. They're not going to be able to pull away. You just can't do that in modern truck racing, but those 2 got hooked up, had the advantage. Now the momentum swings in the other direction as Mark Kalin, big push on the outside by Jamie Graham, but you just can't stay locked together like that. So the outside gets the advantage. They have to back off each other. You rinse, you wash, and repeat. Now, there's only 5 trucks on the outside right now. Again, the vast majority of drivers working the bottom lane, which tells me there is still some degree of safety or conservatism going on, because the drivers on the bottom aren't in any shape or fashion rushing to get anywhere. I always say that the plate tracks are kind of the opposite of the freeway, right? The left lane at Dega, that's not the passing lane, it's the slow lane. If you're on the bottom and you're 10, 12 trucks back, you're not winning the race by being the 12th truck in line on the bottom. Now, the middle lane, you can make some passes. You go to the very right-hand side. That's kind of like the left lane on the freeway. That is the go lane. So if you're hanging right here, back in the pack, you are not stressed yet. So maybe we aren't quite yet at that moment where drivers are ready to flip the switch, because we saw how quickly all it takes is, 3 trucks? You can get a third lane going. Not seeing any signs of that quite yet.
No, in fact, you saw, I think Nick Seraph just went ahead and he dipped up with Kyle Dewey and went back down. I'm surprised. I thought with this last caution occurring just at the 30-minute mark, I thought we were good. I'm a little surprised. I mean, look at that humongous gap in the top lane between Jamie Graham and Doug Evans. Like, it's just wild. And speaking of Doug Evans, Evan, what's probably time we do is our Miracle Flow team update. We should probably go ahead and get that out of the way. We're about 20 minutes-ish left in this race. And For once, I think we start that update by looking at Doug Evans as your first driver up. Doug, of course, not a playoff driver. Out there in the bright, you call it what, a highlighter green truck here, up in the, riding in the top lane, third back. And Doug has won, or he's been part of a victory celebration here at the Super Speedway for him and his son Jeff at one point. Had that 1-2 finish at Super Speedway. So Doug, very much in contention here to win at Talladega. We move back through the field to find our next Miracle Flow driver. And who is going to be either Evans, Schwartz, or Holly? And I think it's going to be...
They're all way back there in the 20s.
That's all. Yeah, it's all back there together. So who's scored better in the moment? Who is it going to be? I think it's Jeff Evans. He's in one of those pink trucks. There's Nicholas Schwartz as well. So these guys are sort of riding in the back. But I'm a little surprised. It's not often we see Miracle Flow in the back of the field.
Yeah, we're used to seeing them all up front. But to your point, very clearly the leader of that conglomerate is Doug Evans up in the number 6 spot. And then you look to find the others. You got Nicholas Schwartz running in the number 24 position. He started 30th in this race without a qualifying effort, so he's got some work to do. Jeff Evans, the pink truck you're looking at right now, did qualify in the number 18 spot. He has slipped back to where he runs in the number 26 position, and he's just ahead of Bradley Holly, who started third and on lap 2 dropped out, right, was up front, went to the outside lane, intentionally dropped to the rear. So I don't think it's a coincidence that you've got a bunch of these Miracle Flow trucks all lined up in a row here, waiting and lying in wait to make their decision.
Yep, and then the last one of the group would be Bradley Holly, who is back in P27 currently. And so that concludes the look at our Miracle Flow cars and our Miracle Flow team up. You know, Evan, Miracle Flow is built for the bold. It's more than a hair care. It's a lifestyle. They were founded in Rochester, New York back in 2015, and it was created to elevate both your look and your lifestyle. Made in the USA and crafted for real performance, is trusted by those who show up ready, whether it means game night with the boys or a night out on the town. No shortcuts, no gimmicks, just results. Miracle Flow, because your hair isn't just style, it's a statement. Well, the statement being made right now by Doug Evans is, I want to win. As we said, the leading Miracle Flow truck here is right there. And look, there's one truck up top. Who is that going up here? The black and orange. That's Mark Kalin. He wants to make a statement, but I think maybe he got stuck outside there, Evan. I think maybe he doesn't want to be there by choice. I think he's trying to make sure he can stay off the wall and find a spot in line.
We have seen drivers by design go to the outside and get out of the way. I mean, the 62 went up there unassisted. It just seems like a strange time to want to drop to the back, unless the fuel numbers are so close that he felt like, hey, if I continue to lead this outside line, I'm not going to have enough fuel, right? Obviously, the burn rate for the lead truck in every line going to be higher than quite literally every other truck on the racetrack. So I do think Kalin went up high on purpose. Maybe he didn't intend to drop that far back, but my suspicion, the only thing that I can really reason with, is he felt like he needed to get in line to start saving fuel.
Yeah, you're right. I'm surprised. I really thought, and as time goes on, it's proven to me that I was a little bit off my numbers. I thought for sure after that last yellow we were good. And so I'm a little surprised that everyone's still kind of feeling that need to save. There's Mark Kalin, bottom right of your screen. Brand new grandfather clock in the background, I'm pretty sure, by the way. Just want to point that out. Nice purchase, or a nice get there by Mark to have that in the background. But Mark looks pretty chill, wearing the hat there, and looks pretty calm and comfortable inside his sim rig at the moment. So just kind of riding along and trying to see what he can make of the show. No, whoa, look at that. Fuel saving is a problem. First off, did he make that is a question, but down pit road,
black flag. So he is a speeding penalty. And that is a huge blow for Kalin.
Was he off cycle? What?
He had pitted most recently out of everybody else 15 laps ago, which was the number for the majority of the field. So unless it was a decision to not come down or to not take full fuel on board, I'm curious what it was. And now on pit road, deciding to not come into the box means that he'll have to come back in to serve a penalty anyway. But interesting that the decision was pretty obviously going to be a fuel call. He ends up not taking a fuel. He drives straight through pit road. The other trucks who he came down pit road with did take fuel. It was about 6 seconds worth of gas for Lane, Holly, and Hunter.
My only guess would be for Mark that maybe that, yeah, he's only up one spot. So he's qualified P25 tonight. I wonder if he was just missed his box, honestly, under green. Just got frazzled by the speeding penalty and just kind of blew right on through. So apparently pit stops are coming for some drivers. That's a little surprising. I thought the window was a little wider tonight than I guess it is. So we'll see who else comes down pit road. Here's Mark Kalen's pit stop. I mean, just no way he's going to make that. And then went right on through there. So, oh, it's him coming back. Sorry, that's him coming back the second time. Sorry, I take that back what I was saying. That was a live shot there. So Mark Kalen there down pit road. Now he stops in. This will be a long stop. He'll have the pit stop, and then he'll also have the penalty to serve.
Here's the miss on the pit lane entry, and just too hot in. Was able to keep it within those yellow cones. If you do not enter pit road into between those cones, that would be a separate penalty, but the penalty to Kalen was too fast entering. As you can see, the leaders working around some lap traffic. That's Nicholas Schwartz getting lapped, as he is currently scored in the number 27 position. And Mark Kalen also is in pit road this time by. Going to cost him at least one, if not 2 laps in total, as he has to spend a total of nearly 58 seconds. 46 is going to be the number in the box itself. So Mark Kalen is on pit road. The field is coming through the travel. He's going to go 2 laps down, all because of that penalty.
It's unfortunate for him. Well, you know, Evan, while we are making memories tonight here at Talladega, we also need to take a moment back and look back at last week's race via Mr. Hedge as well. Last week, that incredible race won by Jeff Evans. You'll see some of the beautiful sights captured by Mr. Hedge here. An incredible race all night long. Lots of good racing. There you see Jeff doing the burnouts and lots of great racing all night long there at Chicagoland last week. You know, in Mr. Hedge, sim racing is full of unforgettable moments, and Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography can help you capture them all. From first wins to fresh liveries, even those crashes you'll never forget, even if you want to. Mr. Hedge turns virtual racing into memories worth sharing. They're clean, they're sharp, and they're made for sim racers. Visit mrhedge.co.uk to get your best moments in focus. Boy, Evan, there's lots of moments tonight that will likely be in focus next week. The 3 wide battles, maybe that little calamity on the starting grid, and many more moments. And I don't think we're done here with 12 minutes on the clock.
This is typically when the chaos here in Talladega starts to ramp up. And hopefully for the drivers on the racetrack, there are no really exciting crash opportunity photos, because these things can get crazy and out of control. And I think it is officially go time with almost about 10 minutes left on the clock. Inside, Doyle Lawrence continues to lead. He started 13th. He is the control car, led his first lap of the race the last time by. On the outside, the number 42 machine, Mike Toomer Jr., leading the outermost lane. He's got a big push by Jacob Dunn, who we have not talked a lot about tonight, but remember we talked about how those Tabula Rasa trucks were close to each other on the initial start. Well, all of a sudden you've got Dunn there, second in line up top, James Morgan there. Also, I teased earlier that this is a place where you want to find your teammates and you want to work together, and I think that's what we're seeing with those 2 trucks up on the outside.
And these guys have had success at super speedways in PSR. I remember Dunn won a race, I think it's a couple seasons ago, and then Morgan won one where basically Dunn was leading at the caution, and Dunn ran out of gas, and Morgan just had to drive on by and watch his teammate fall down pit road. So these guys have both won a super speedway. So now Mike Toomer goes to the bottom. That leaves Dunn and Morgan up top, and based upon that gap I see between is it Dunn, Morgan, and then back to that green Doug Evans truck, they must feel confident in their gas. Or they're with 10.5 minutes to go here, they must feel confident that they know they can push and go full bore here in this moment.
And some lap traffic up the road. Leaders are going to have to navigate that. They're also 3 wide now because Kalen from 2 laps down, 3 wide up top. Does this mean they're going to have to go 4 wide to get around the lapped car on the outside? It's the 116 machine, the 816, and Nicholas Acosta. Tight squeeze in 3, but they make it through without incident after 2 lead-lapped cars. Had to deal with 2 lapped cars, and now here we go. The inside line. 5-truck lead means that big runs are going to be coming shortly for both the middle and the outside. 3 in the middle, 2 on the outside. Who is going to make the big run? You can clock it at 12 laps to go, that time by the start-finish line.
By the way, for Acosta, that moment was a little nervous for me because he is the only truck scored 1 lap down. Or so that's Schwartz who scored 1 lap down. Acosta's 2 laps down. So for Acosta, that moment's nervous for him because he's hoping something happens where he can get a lap or 2 back at the end of this race, and we'll see if that does pan out to be here. Or is Acosta just trying to get to the front to maybe push some teammates?
All the options on the table right now, but you're going to have to commit to what you feel like is going to win you this race. The 3 and the 12, 2 teammates linked up as they run on the outside line. Who goes with them? Kalen thought about it, even though he's not on the lead lap. How much of a factor is the number 62 going to be in this race? The 26 truck there pushing as well. Look out, the 3 wants to shut the door. Jacob Dunn wants to hold the inside. He'll put a block on Kalen, but does that split him up from his teammate in the 12?
Yeah, the 12 is getting the push from Robert Barney, and now they're side by side instead of working together. Dunn's trying to find his way back in. That's not going to work. Now it'll be hopefully Dunn pulling in behind Morgan here, and there'll be reverse order from a lap ago.
So a big move for Jacob Dunn, and Kalen ends up completely breaking up the outside lane, and they basically have to start from scratch now. Here again with about 10 to go. Contact between the 12 and the 3. The 62 of Mark Kalen, the instigator right now, as now everybody drops to the other lane. Look how spread out this field has gotten in a matter of only laps. Things were just starting to build up. We saw 3 lanes for the first time since the restart. That will come back. We are not done with it, but in the blink of an eye, everybody's strung out single file because everybody's starting to take and not give. And these drivers are getting really selfish at this point, and it has led to a couple of close calls. Here comes a challenge to the outside. It's Jamie Graham in the 1 with the draft from the 26 of Robert Barney.
And the moment needs to happen now, Evan. The clock is ticking, and I hate to be that guy to bring up the C word, but I mean, we're just about to the point where a caution ends this race. It would be hard pressed to think, unless the admins can get us through a short yellow, that if a caution comes out right now, we're likely done. Whatever move you want to make, inside, outside, 2 wide, 3 wide, 4 wide, whatever you want to do. In the words of John Cena, your time is now.
And again, it just gets hung up on the 3 wide. Everywhere you look around Mark Kalen, it's just messing up the leaders. They just can't figure out what to do with the number 62 machine. And again, he has his own motives out there, not a part of a lead lap battle, not even a part of the Lucky Dog battle. If we were to get a caution, it would be Nicholas Schwartz who would be the driver to get the lead lap status back. And it sounds like there may be pit stops coming this time by. Look at the leaders on the bottom. Mike Toomer Jr. is going to come in. There's trouble, smoke, and a wreck on the entry to pit road. Do we stay green? We do. It was Zachary Burt who is off it in the grass. He's got a black flag penalty. We stay green, and the only thing these trucks need is about 8 laps worth of fuel.
Yeah, Mike Toomer got a black flag as well. I'm guessing for speeding, but we'd have to confirm that. But that's going to be 2 penalties that'll ruin 2 races. Well, up front now, it is Morgan and Dunn, 2 playoff drivers, trying to see if they can secure the win here. Do they need to pit? Or are they going to pit? Are they hoping the yellow saves them from needing to pit? So many questions left here with about 5 minutes to go. Whoa,
here's a look at what happened with Zachary Burt out of control on the entry to pit road, and a caution flag will fly. This will change everything. It's just past the pit exit for Zach Williams in the 89, wrecking on a pit road exit. What is going on late in Talladega? Because now, for the trucks who may have been close out of fuel, they are going to be that much closer. Let's take a look at what happened off of pit road.
I'm guessing he's getting excited. He's going to slam on the throttle. Got hit by Brandon Walter up on the track. And caution's out.
tough blow for a driver who executed his pit stop quite well. He was side by side with the wrecking trucks on pit road entry, was clean into the box, clean out of the box, and then either just too much on the gas or maybe a money shift. Let's take a look at the RPMs.
Yep, way too many RPMs. And
Yep.
And you heard it. You heard it winding up. It sounded like a weed whacker winding up. It just got too many RPMs, and then around it went out of nowhere. So nothing on purpose. This is one of those things that happens in this moment. Well, waiting to hear from admins. I'm guessing we're going to shorten this caution down, Evan, to get us probably a 2 to go. I would assume is probably where we're going to end up here. I feel like we've seen this play out before, haven't we? With these guys, Morgan and Dunn up front at the end of a super speedway race. I'm sure they're okay with the ending right now, but that's probably not going to be what's going to happen here.
Yeah, and the numbers were so close, right? The drivers who had come down pit road, I think, were on the number 33. They were not the most recent group to pit because the cars leading this race have been out there for either 30 or 29 laps. So there is some sort of buffer in there somewhere. And it was going to be a close call between if the drivers who, pitted, say, 7 laps later than the drivers who were 8 laps short on fuel, right? Was that enough of a difference for them to be able to make it all the way? Or were they going to have to come down? Well, this caution means they're going to save a ton of fuel. So clearly, by the barren pit road entry, with the exception of 1 or 2 trucks now trickling in from the back, all of those trucks who may have had to pit under green anyways are now going to stay out because you don't have to have an abundance of extra fuel for overtime. You are going to be able to know with relative certainty you're going to get maybe 1, maybe 2 at a most. But again, right now, light's still on top of the pace car. The clock is under 3 minutes. So if this goes green at all, in fact, Morgan, Dunn, Graham going to be able to save, and probably make it on fumes.
So the story I don't think we've shared in the broadcast yet, Evan. I would love to talk to Morgan or Dunn, but that team believes that I have some kind of jinx that after we interview them, that something bad happens. I've basically been all but revoked my press pass for in-race interviews on Tabula Rasa Esports. So I don't think we can bring them up here and ask them how the fuel is, because I've been told that I'm a jinx for that team.
Well, they already have the graphic ready. I will say, James Morgan, we talked about the points coming into tonight, entered this race 3 points below the cut line, and is a driver who would greatly benefit from a good finish in any description, right? Top 5, top 10 would likely get some breathing room to the bubble, but likely would not be able to gain enough points to be points safe headed to Martinsville. So what a win this could be for James Morgan. And I know he's your teammate, but if you're Jacob Dunn, you're not in that same boat. I mean, Jacob Dunn's 21 below the cut. A P2 might not even be enough to get him above the cut. He, I think, would certainly want a chance to race for this win.
So do you want to take the chance and interview them, or do you just want to stay clear of that?
I'm staying away from that, even with a 10-foot pole.
Fair enough.
And I think we're going to find out this time by. If the lights go out this time by, we will get at least a 1-lap restart in this race, I would think. If the lights stay on, obviously, this thing is done.
Let's find out here. Wait, there's no green light checkers. Remember that. It says whatever happens here on the clock is whatever happens. So let's watch for the lights. That's a bad camera shot. They're off.
So the lights are off. Less than a minute to go on the clock. When the clock expires is when the white flag will be displayed. So I think we are going to be looking at a green and white the next time around for a 1-lap shootout to decide it. And what a swing this could have in the playoffs. We just laid out the scenario. James Morgan came into tonight 3 below the cut line. He would lock in if this race ended under the yellow at the expense of his teammate Jacob Dunn, who arguably needs it more because he came in further below the cut. And now you're going to have 2 TRE Chevrolets on the front row, hoping at minimum that they can fight this out amongst themselves and not pull a Denny Hamlin, Bubba Wallace, and take it away from each other.
Yeah, all I can think in my head right now is, remember that move we saw about, 73.5 minutes ago from Brett and Blaine Adams at the start of the race? They're hoping they can pull a move equally as awesome at the end of this race, or on the last restart of this race at least.
And it's going to be tricky to develop a run because it's going to take probably 2/3 of the lap to be able to get up to speed. So your restart itself is basically going to dictate what happens between basically the start-finish line and halfway down the backstretch. And once you get to 3, that's where you can start to make up for a run. But it's not enough time to get multiple looks at something. It's going to be one attempt. And again, these TRE trucks would love to decide it amongst themselves. I don't know if you could make those 2 race trucks wide enough to be able to have total control over who has a chance to fight for the race win. A spot in the round of 8 hangs in the balance as we look for the green and white flag here at the Talladega Super Speedway. James Morgan, Jacob Dunn, side by side on the front row. Green flag flies, 1 lap to go the inside with a huge advantage.
I think Dunn missed a gear, or he missed a start, one of the two, because there's a big gap down these 2 lanes. Wrecking in the back, we're going to say green. This is the white flag. Lots of trucks, 5, 6, 7, 8 trucks wrecked in the back. Let's watch up front to see what happens. We'll come back to this in a little bit.
Yeah, so no caution. We stay green now on the backstretch. Here comes the run for the outside. Jacob Dunn's got the speed. The one of Jamie Graham tries to block. Now he's in no man's land. Morgan leads the inside line. Jacob Dunn with the speed on the outside. Look at the 56 now. Richard Regan trying to go to the middle. That lane is sealed off. There's 3 wide behind them, but 2 wide off of turn 4. The TRE trucks are side by side. Barney goes to the outside. Dunn shuts it down. Inside, James Morgan the advantage. Evan Williams sticks with him, and James Morgan survives and wins in Talladega.
Wow, well, there is your win and in for the race, Evan. That is going to put Morgan into the round of 8. What a run by James Morgan. What a great run to block and hold off. We'll come back to that. First, I want to see what happened back in the field. I think Jeff Evans might be where it all kind of kicks off. Watch about the middle of your screen here. Jeff Evans in the middle. And he's going to, oh, from that look, it's hard to tell. Thought maybe the action happened behind him, but maybe it's Thomas Sink, maybe? And it is all hell broke loose.
And there's the teammates who both at least wanted a shot at it in the end. Unfortunately for Jacob Dunn, he was too busy throwing blocks on the other drivers trying to get into it as we take a second look at the trouble in turn number 1. That was on the restart. We raced through it. And in the end, only one stands on top, and James Morgan's going to go from a bubble driver to locked in to the round of 8 with this race win. Well, the celebration going to continue. We'll get a word with your race winner in just a moment. But before we do so, let's take a look at tonight's full race results. James Morgan, the Tabula Rasa Esports RPG driver, locks into the round of 8 courtesy of the race win and becomes, and I'll double check the math before I say it, but he will be the 5th different playoff race winner in the 5 races so far this postseason. He gets the win over 2 non-playoff drivers, Evan Williams and Jamie Graham, and we said tonight was a wide open door for a non-playoff race winner. Look at all of the orange in the rest of the top 10. Steve Loving with a great result, Nicholas Hunter, Jacob Dunn with Robert Barney and Richard Regan Jr. through your top 8. Impressive showing with playoff cars occupying 6 of those top 8 spots.
Yep, you have Nick Saraff and Doug Evans running at your top 10. We move back into P11. You'd find Brian Tope, Matt Gagnon, and Colton Lane back through 13th. This is all, by the way, within 1 second still of the leader back through Colton Lane. They got Doyle Lawrence with Bradley Holly and Thomas Sink, P15 and 16. 17 is Nicholas Schwartz. 18 is Brandon Walter. 19 is Blaine Adams. And then Zach Williams, P20 in the field.
And continuing on through, the big thing to look here is Ted Lowendick, who will come home in the number 21 position. He won the second race of the previous round at the Kansas Speedway, came into tonight, I would say, in a very comfortable spot, plus 58, so I don't think it's dire straits yet. But not a great result for Ted Lowendick confidence-wise headed into Martinsville, because points will at least be a conversation for him as he finishes ahead of Kyle Dewey, Jeff Evans, Stacey Hunter, Brett Adams through your top 25, Mike Toomer Jr., Zachary Burnt, Mark Kalin, Nicholas Acosta, and Reese Bogue through your top 30. Final two drivers in the running order do not make it to tonight's scheduled distance. It'll be a P31 for Dustin Bumgarner and a P32 for Nicholas Gadenia. Well, let's head to the Regan Bogue Motorsports post-race show, brought to you by Regan Bogue Motorsports. Speed is just the starting point. Success is built through discipline, focus, and development. At Regan Bogue Motorsports, our iRacing coaching is built to develop winners. Through one-on-one training, we focus on the fundamentals that turn fast drivers into champions: smart racecraft, disciplined decision-making, and pressure-proof performance. This isn't about chasing quick results, it's about building the foundation for lasting success. Regan Bogue Motorsports, developed for wins, built for championships. And let's talk with the driver of the number 12 Chevrolet, because it is James Morgan who comes home victorious here from the Talladega Superspeedway. James, congratulations on what is certainly a huge victory for you guys. You come into this race on the bubble in the round of 12 standings, and you're going to leave here with one of those win stickers, which will make your next week at Martinsville a lot less stressful.
Yeah, absolutely. I knew tonight was going to be huge for us, advancing to the round of 8, just because I'm not very good at all at Martinsville. It's probably one of my worst oval tracks. So I knew going in tonight was going to be a good night. We could not leave here in a bad point situation at all. But overall, just an absolute great night to be able to do this in advance and not have to worry at all about Martinsville. Start working on COTA a little bit now.
Yeah, that's going to be the next challenge up for you guys as you look forward to the COTA race coming up at the end of the round of 8. A good opportunity for you guys to find your way into a championship conversation. Tell us about the end of this race, right? We saw a bunch of trucks splinter off to pit road for just a splash. If this thing stayed green, would you guys have needed to come back down?
Yeah, we were about a lap short, but we were pretty committed to staying out there as long as possible and then pitting at the end for a splash and go and just trying to see how it would play out. We were kind of counting on, Jacob Dunn and I he won the last race, a restrictor plate race, by playing the exact same strategy, just counting on a caution there at the very end and then making that our fuel number to be able to fit within it. So it worked out really well again for us tonight.
And then you get to the final restart, which we didn't even know if we were going to get it. There was a chance that this thing just paced itself out to the end. You find yourself side by side with a teammate, knowing the point situation coming into this race. You were a bubble driver. I think the gap for you was 3 points. But Jacob had even more work to do at a minus 21. So knowing those conflicted interests, you both obviously wanted to make sure that you don't do anything that takes you out of the race on the end. What was kind of the game plan? Did you guys coordinate at all for that final one-lap sprint?
Yeah, so absolutely. We had we were talking under that last caution. We thought there was going to be probably a one-lap shootout. We had basically just said he's going to keep it on the outside line, I'm going to keep it on the inside line, and then we're just going to kind of see which one of us comes out on top because we both absolutely needed to win, and that would have been huge. Yeah, he got stuffed outside a little bit there and fell back to about 6th, unfortunately, but it was just basically we weren't going to block each other at any point in time if he were to clear and come down, of course then I would have just continued to push him, but yeah, he never got that opportunity or anything. But I wasn't going to move up to block him because I felt like if I moved up to block him, that could have stuffed us both out and neither of us had a chance to win.
I know it's not front of mind for you anymore, but what is the outlook for maybe some of your teammates who have a lot riding on the line at a tight confines of the Martinsville Superspeedway, or Martinsville Speedway, I should say, which may have some similar worries to a place like this Talladega Superspeedway where there could be a lot of contact, and it can be a race where you can find yourself in trouble pretty easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Jacob is really good at short tracks. He's a lot better than what I am, but we're just going to get to work over the next week on Martinsville and try and find something and figure out how, we can be quick and see what the points shakeout look like and see if we can get him to the round of 8 as well, hopefully.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing how this round of 12 ends in a week's time, but for you, round of 12 is done and dusted. You guys are moving on. We'll let you get to celebrating with you and the rest of the team. Before we do those sponsors, shout-outs, all those good folks, who do you want to say hi to?
Yeah, I got to give a huge shout out to Tabula Rasa Esports. I would not have been able to done it tonight without Jacob Dunn working on strategy, Nicholas Acosta as well. Huge shout out to those guys as well, practicing with us week in, week out. We're all getting better. We're all improving. Going to a round of 8 and everything. So a huge shout out to all those guys. We've done a lot with practices and everything, especially over the last 2 seasons, just trying to get better, be better prepared for these races and everything. So huge shout out to those guys. I really appreciate each and every one of them. Even extra shout out to Dunn tonight. We were talking strategy the whole time throughout with Acosta, pitching in here and there. He unfortunately got caught up early, but we were doing pretty good on the bottom line early, being the 3 of us. We were just going to all stick together throughout the race and see how it shaked out. So huge shout out to those guys. I couldn't ask for better teammates.
We appreciate your time as well, giving us some insight. Again, James, congratulations on the race win here tonight in Talladega. Best of luck to the teammates next week.
Thanks, guys.
It's a race winner tonight at Talladega, 5th different playoff race winner in the 5 playoff races so far this season. Well, we mentioned non-playoff cars had a good chance of being a factor in this race, and how about 2nd and 3rd? Good finishes for some non-playoff cars. Derrick, you're standing by first with Evan Williams.
Now let's go ahead and bring it back into the broadcast with Evan Williams. Evan, we got a chance to talk with you earlier during that unfortunate wild ride, but all said and done tonight, you're going to finish P2. How does that feel?
Man, I thought I was going to be done after that damage. I don't know what it looked like on the broadcast, but it felt like my left side was pretty messed up. I went in the pits, only had 11 seconds of repairs. So I'm surprised to be up here. Happy it happened. It's kind of crazy at the end.
So caution comes out about 5-ish minutes to go. What was your confidence level? We were going green again. Were you hoping it was going green again? What was going through your mind?
We were talking about it in the chat. We didn't know, because I guess if you we didn't know that if the 1 to green came out, if it would start or not. But I was kind of bummed the caution came out to start with, because I was good on fuel, but I think a lot of guys were not. So I was hoping that wouldn't happen, but I guess it ended up working out either way.
Well, you bring the Prophet Python machine home in P2 tonight. A solid, amazing run. We move ahead though to Martinsville next week. What's the outlook for that?
Based on my track record, I don't perform too well there, but I guess we'll see how it goes.
Well, listen, it's a pleasure watching your race. Anyone you want to give a shout out to or say hello to?
Oh yeah, just all friends, family, everybody watching the broadcast. Obviously RBM having us there, everybody at Prophet Python, and you guys. Appreciate you putting this on.
We appreciate you as well. Congrats on the P2, and we'll see you at Martinsville.
Yes, sir.
All right, that is Evan Williams, and then we'll go ahead and now pick up with the driver who's returned back to the league this season. In the past seasons, run that University of Kentucky paint scheme, I do believe, and Jamie Graham. Jamie, this is a solid way to have a statement back to your return, finishing P3 at a super speedway.
That was fun. I'm a little surprised, considering how past super speedway races and just past races in general have gone, that I ended that not only unscathed, but without being involved in any of the incidents. So top 3 and no involvement in any kind of mayhem of any sort is a win in my book.
So we go green there. I guess essentially with 1 to go. What was your plan? Was it just to stick to the bottom? Were you hoping to make a move? What was on the playbook for Jamie Graham on that last restart?
To be honest with you, I didn't even know we were going green, so I kind of had to make a decision on the fly, and I just kind of resided to the fact that I was going to push, I think, James. I'm sorry, I'm still trying to learn everybody's name. Anyway, push the leader. I was just going to push him to the win, and then I saw the top line coming, so I kind of had some, it probably looked like I was being a little indecisive, and that is true. I was not entirely sure where I was going to go So I was trying to decide if I was going to block top lane or just keep pushing the leader. The leader ended up blocking me, so that made my decision, and I kind of got stuck there in the middle and ducked down as quickly as I could. Fortunately, it worked out, and the seas parted. I was able to get a little side draft off of Loving, and I think just beat him at the line. But yeah, to answer your question, there was no plan. It was push the leader, it was take the top lane, it was try and survive the middle, and it just ended up P3 at the checkered.
Fair enough. Well, congrats on the P3. Any friends, family, sponsors, anyone to give a shout out or say hello to?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, shout out to my buddy Brett Boaz. I know he's watching and cheering me on right now. But again, big shout out to my longtime partners at the Cardano community. We're repping Cardano and Hosky and Starch.io. So if you're into crypto, buy your ADA, stake it in Hosky and Starch, claim your rewards. Shout out to my family at home, my wife who's probably sleeping, everybody who watches me and supports me. Definitely my in-laws. I know they're on here every race, cheering me on, giving me big whoops. So yeah, shout out to everybody mentioned.
Well, Jamie, once again, congrats on the P3, and we'll see you at Martinsville in 1 week.
Thank you, man. Glad to be back. Appreciate y'all.
Glad to have you back as well. That's Jamie Graham. He finishes P3, and that wraps up the podium interview portion of the RBM post show.
We'll appreciate all of those drivers, as always, for giving us some time to chat. James Morgan, Evan Williams, and Jamie Graham. And James is very happy that he does not need to stress about this because, well, it's not a super speedway. I mentioned it's got a lot of characteristics in that many people do not want their playoff lives on the line when you visit here in Talladega or next week's track at the Martinsville Speedway, because calamity, chaos can find themselves just as much on that tiny paperclip as they can, Derrick, on this big 2.66 mile super speedway we saw. And it is going to be a nail-biting, rough and tough of action to decide which drivers move on to the round of 8.
Yeah, I'm excited to see those points when they come out later tonight. I'm excited to see who's going to end up where, and the points battle for next week will be tense all night long at Martinsville.
And looking forward to you joining us for that one. Plenty of action to catch here on Green Flag TV between now and then, but until next time, that is going to be it for us here tonight from Talladega. On behalf of our entire team at Green Flag TV, for the folks over at Premier Sim Racing, and for your broadcast crew tonight. For producer Dustin Ollis, for myself, Evan Posocco, and Derrick Watson, I want to say thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next Wednesday, October 22nd, for iRacing's virtual Martinsville Speedway. That race and every race of the Outlap Motorsports Truck Series playoffs can be found right here on Green Flag TV. Till next time, good night from Talladega, and congratulations to James Morgan.